I'm Ethan.
And we're here to bring you two films, both made around 2006, and both around the idea of magic. Now, we've got The Illusionist and The Prestige tonight. Let's start with The Illusionist.
Now, The Illusionist is about Eisenheim the Illusionist. And this film, while not my favorite, I personally prefer The Prestige, is definitely better in terms of acting. You see this mainly from Paul Giamatti and Edward Norton, both great actors. Edward Norton on stage is able to convey pain and misery purely through his face, something that we see lacking in The Prestige. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But he's really able to illustrate his loss and his misery only through his emotions of his face. He has very little dialogue while he's on stage. What he does have is very, formulaic, simple magician stuff, but still we feel what he feels.
Absolutely. And those who haven't seen the movie, it's all about how his love interest was killed by the man she was supposed to marry, but when Eisenheim come back as a childhood friend, has come back into her life, and they met and re-fall in love. And we see this best through the lanterns throughout the movie, constantly. The kerosene lanterns are in almost every scene, whether it's Eisenheim telling him to leave him in the theater at the end of the night, or it's in their love scene where the entire room is just lit with them. It truly represents their love, and in the end, when we find out she is alive, you go back and look at the lanterns and how they're still lit, and throughout the movie, it truly represents their love and how it never really goes out, and when you go back and watch it, you know she's still alive.
Absolutely. The lantern's consummate in the film, and another theme is the sword. Now, the sword is sort of a theme and also a symbol. It represents power. Now, in the trick where the Crown Prince is brought up on stage, he's attempting to remove the sword. We see two men fail, and we see the Crown Prince fail. Now, this really illustrates the power that Eisenheim has over the Crown Prince. He is in power, he is in charge, even though the Crown Prince is the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince later kills Sophie with his sword, showing his power over her. When he draws it, she screams, "No, don't!" Anyway, after that, we see the jewel from the sword also being used for power. It's used to implicate the Crown Prince in a murder which he did not commit. There was no actual murder, but still is used to fool Paul Giamatti's character into believing that he is guilty.
Now, as we know, both The Prestige and The Illusionist revolve around magic, and definitely The Illusionist around illusions themselves. And we truly see that with the design of the setup. Everything was built so perfectly, but you got to truly give it to the actors and the director for himself, just setting all that up. But throughout the movie, we see themes such as the sword, the lanterns, but probably the biggest one I noticed in the last time I watched it was the locket. Now, in the beginning, as childhood friends, Eisenheim gives it to her, and she's able to turn the locket, and it turns into a heart from the butterfly to more of a tulip, which she turns into a heart. And after he disappears, she no longer is able to turn it, or doesn't seem to want to. But the next time we see her and Eisenheim react, they clearly notice each other. They remember their childhood friends, and then right after that, the love is almost instantaneous once again. And in the next love scene, we finally see her turn it again, and it's into a heart again, and which truly represents her transformation from childhood friends and who she was with him, what she became with the prince, and finally going back to what she really was.
Absolutely. Very strong set design in The Illusionist. It's in the same way with the set design and the film style, it all feels very classical, very period. There's not as much, complex camera movement as there is in The Prestige. In The Prestige, Nolan, makes it more artistic, as he always does. He incorporates some very good filming techniques. Illusionist uses, the classical angles to exhibit power, things like that. The Prestige has more movement of the camera, more beautiful artistic shots, and to me is a more beautiful film.
Absolutely. The Prestige, like you said, probably my favorite of the two. There's nothing wrong with the illusion itself, but the Prestige truly does it, and that's a good segue right into it. Let's get into the Prestige. Let's start with my favorite thing about it, Christian Bale. Now, you look at it and you say, his accent is just terrible. You watch The Dark Knight or anything else and you say, that's probably his normal voice, right? Then you watch The Illusionist and you say, his real accent is the one you see in The Prestige, and it's so bad compared to his fake one, which seems so real, it throws everybody off.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, focusing on Christian Bale again, we're really going to compare the acting of Christian Bale versus Eisenheim. Now, while Eisenheim on stage is able to convey his misery without even saying anything, Christian Bale has an opportunity to say something and emote in the scenes in which he says, "I love you." Now, these scenes in which he says, "I love you" to his wife are used to convey how he's a twin. One does love her, one does not. And she says that he means it on some days and doesn't mean it on not. Now, me personally, I don't see it. Both of the I love yous seem the same. You can't tell that one is sincere and one is not. And to me, this is one strong shortcoming of this film. And Christian Bale, I'm sure today, could absolutely destroy that. He's been an actor since childhood. I don't see how he messed it up with this, but he did, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. You can clearly see it, and nothing against him. He's a great actor, but it's visible. And the story itself maybe weakens a little bit with it, but it's still a strong story. And the movie itself was great. You know, the movie itself starts right in the beginning, right in the middle actually, and it takes you back to the beginning to when they worked together, to how they developed with each other, and then away from each other, while at the same time maintaining a certain relationship as if they couldn't get away from each other.
Absolutely. And this sort of starting in the middle is seen in both films. Both films start in the middle, but with The Illusionist, it starts in the middle, you see the scene where he's arrested, and then the story's told linearly. Somewhat disappointing to me. Now, The Prestige is beautiful in its storytelling, absolutely not linear. It's 3 different timelines woven together, somewhat, I guess the word would be mystically. Nolan has really perfected this art form with Memento and his other films of not telling things in order. And this really adds the mystery to the film. Mystery and secrecy is important in this film, and this adds so much mystery to it. Now, an important motif in this film is cabinets. We see them a lot. Where they're seen in the introduction of the character of Scarlett Johansson when she has to hide in the cabinet. They're seen in the real transported man when Bale goes in one cabinet and out the other. Lots of scenes with cabinets, and cabinets also represent a secrecy. Once it's closed, you don't know what's in there. When it's closed, you don't know what's going to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Another great theme is electricity and the interjection of Tesla in the movie. Now, what seemingly is a nobody character to a story that has nothing to do with him, that just little bits and pieces of who he is and what he does gives us this illusion, actually, of real magic. And when Angier, or Hugh Jackman, actually does his transported man, we don't know as of when we see it, but in the truth, he's actually cloning himself. And it really just ties in how real magic could have been with Tesla, and one character makes the whole story just fluid, actually.
And as you said, you don't know until the end. There's a lot of secrecy in this movie, sort of conveyed through the storytelling. You know, you don't know what's happening, you don't know this, you don't know that. But not only is the audience kept in the dark, many of the characters are. Scarlett Johansson's character, as well as Sarah the wife, neither of them know that they're essentially married to 2 men. Well, Sarah is, Scarlett Johansson's character is not. So, 2 different men living the same life. He even says his life is secret. Angier keeps lots of secrets. Their diaries are supposed to be completely secret, turn out to be fake. And secrets very powerful in this film and very necessary to the storytelling, keeping people in the dark until the very, very end.
Absolutely. The secrets are well kept, and you have to admit that. But it's also a little foolish if you go back and watch how easily you can be tricked in the fact that Fallon truly is Borden's twin, and there's 2 of them. You know, we see this with the rubber ball from the last prison scene where he bounces it to him. We get a hint at that was who it was when he was doing his transported man. When his fingers were bleeding, that they happened again because they had to, cut him off again. Everything happens for a reason in this film, and going back a second time, you'll notice that.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed in The Prestige that's not in The Illusionist is, in The Illusionist, you kind of know, oh, she can't be dead because the lanterns are on and she's being projected. But in The Prestige, you're told multiple times that it's a twin, essentially. You don't notice it until the second watch through, but it's so obviously presented in front of your face, it's almost infuriating that people don't pick up on that. As for these films, 2 very similar, totally different. The Illusionist is very much a classical mystery. You have an unveil at the end in which Paul Giamatti's character realizes everything while sitting at a train station, and you get all the details at the end. The Prestige, you sort of piece together as it comes along until the end when there is a final unveil, but it's done completely differently. If you like The Illusionist, I would recommend a classical mystery, maybe Sherlock Holmes, not Robert Downey Jr., but with Basil Rathbone's. Very, very good. And if you like The Prestige, maybe something like Memento or Pulp Fiction. Memento, also a Christopher Nolan film, also told somewhat out of order. Pulp Fiction, told out of order, not a Bale film, but similar in the way the story comes together.
Absolutely. Make some great points tonight, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.